read the midnights, winked at the sun. Life isn't over, it's only begun for me. Begun for me. Clouding my vision, all that I see. Fog like a
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Two Beers with a Band. I'm your host, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Mr. Marco with Love. He is a Nashville-based, let me see, singer, songwriter, producer, label owner, multi-instrumentalist. I mean, I'm running out of, spots on my paper. You do so many different things, and you wear a cool mask on top of that.
I'm happy to be here, and you can call me the Silver Boy.
The Silver Boy. Well, you know what? I'm going to write that down, and for the remainder of the show, I'm going to call you Silver Boy.
Respectfully.
All right. Well, you let me know before the show started that you were wanting to sample NA beers, so I picked out a couple, and we're going to start with the Stella Artos. It is a 0.0 ABV beer. And I figured, why not? Let's go ahead and crack this thing and jump into it.
Stella Artois. Nice.
All right.
It's getting hot out there, so this is a good time right now.
Right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself while we're
First, let me let the Silver Boy smell the hops. Oh, yeah. You smell them right out the gates on this one. So, Silver Boy, that's the translation of my surname. Argiro in Italian means silver, and in the Greek translation, boy is the O part, so Argiro translates to Silver Boy, which is my family's given name. My father emigrated here from Italy, from a small medieval town called Maida, and he came here in the 60s, and that was my grandfather's name, who was a master tailor in Italy, and great-grandfathers fought with the Italian army over there, and this record that I've made is paying respects to my lineage and my family's history. And that's where I've come up with the Silver Boy persona, and it's also a moniker and the title of the new album. But before we get too much into that, should we drink?
Let's take a sniff.
Sniff first,
real quick. What do you expect off this beer?
I mean, it smells like a Stella, even though it doesn't have all the alcohol in it. It smells like I've had plenty of these in my day, especially touring overseas. Yeah, I'm getting a nice kiss of the hops at the top there.
I'm getting a little bit.
I'm getting mild skunk, good in the good way. Style, you know.
Yeah, I'm getting a little green, not a lot, just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of a real mild malt, but the hops are kind of prevalent. A little more prevalent than I thought they would be.
I imagine, we haven't tried it yet, but I imagine I'm gonna get nice. Some IBV levels being a little higher than we maybe anticipated. We'll see. I don't know. Sometimes with the NAs, you might get that, but that's just my anticipation, Wow. Shall I?
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Not bad. Nice bite. Kind of Pilsnery.
It is, very much so.
I don't hate it one bit.
Not quite what I was expecting as far as hops go.
Mm-hmm.
Very light. It does lean a little more American Pilsner.
Totally.
What I'm getting off of it.
I'm into it. I mean, these days, not being off the sauce, it's you try a lot of different ones and try to find the one that works for you.
Right.
And I would have this one again, and we're not being paid to say this, folks.
No, it's not a bad beer. Not at all.
I always like Stella, though. I was always a good go-to lager.
Yeah. As far as NA beers, I'm still struggling a little bit to find a good one. Or to find one that I'll go back to. I found a few that were okay, and then I've had a few it was, man, I don't want that again.
Which ones would you not go back to again?
Honestly, Guinness.
The Guinness Zero?
Yes, it's awful.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't hate it. You know, I've McNamara's over there. I've been over there and I've had one on draft. I want to believe. No, you know what? I lied. It's in a can. But I didn't hate it. And it kind of went with the vibe. And I was having a shepherd's pie, and my wife and I aren't drinking, so it was nice to kind of have a cold Guinness. Is it something I'm going to pick up a 6-pack of? Probably not. But it did the trick for me. I mean, different strokes for different folks, right? But I don't know. There's, what surprised me when we were looking for different beers that were going to be good was a Sam Adams, which I never drank Sam Adams ever. But the Sam Adams IPA is legit.
I haven't had it.
It's really good. It's like a hazy.
Yeah.
A hazy IPA that was what if I was drinking beer, I was usually, especially local here, I'd drink the Bearded Iris.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the Mosaic from, forget the other company who did that. But yeah, I like IPAs a lot. I like Wicked Weed Brewery in Brevard, North Carolina.
Yes.
Amazing IPAs, all those ones there.
Yeah. I've had 2 from Sierra Nevada, and both of them were awful. They were just, one of them was just way, way too fruity. Just, I mean, overwhelmingly so. And the other one, the malt was just, it had a weird flavor to it. I couldn't really get into it. So I'll never go back to those. But this right here,
not too bad.
It's not a bad beer.
You know what was also really surprising? You go to venues sometimes, and when you're not drinking, and they have limited options for the NAs, but I was over at this punk rock club called the Cobra. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yes.
It used to be called Foo Bar.
Yeah.
And I was down there one of the first few weeks that I had stopped drinking, and the NA beer that they had is a good old Milwaukee's Beast in a can. Well, I know, which again, that wasn't for me ever, as even in high school or college, whatever. We were drinking like Natural Light and Bud Light and all that other bullshit.
Yeah.
But the Michelob Milwaukee's Beast or whatever it is, NA, for whatever reason, I don't know how they got it right, but it worked. And I would have a couple of those cold. Not bad at all.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I can't believe I'm saying it too, especially in a public setting like this.
I'm going to have to write that down.
Yeah,
if I run across one of those.
Especially if you need a bunch of them for like going out on the boat or something like that. You know, like that one's good. Like I said, the IPA from, what'd I say, Sam Adams?
Yes.
Yeah, that's quite good.
Okay.
There's a Mexican cerveza NA by, it's not Good People. I'm blanking on the brewery here. It's a local brewery, and they sell it over at the Blue Room at Third Man Records. And I don't know, I'm having a bit of a brain fart at the moment, but it happens. All right. It's okay. We'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll go.
I'm happy to be here with you. Can I call you Chris?
Yes.
All right. Or can I call you sir? What do you like?
Whatever.
Well, your shirt says obey, so I'm trying to stay in line.
I go with Chris. That
right on.
Chris. Just fine. Well, I'll answer to that a lot quicker than I would to sir.
Yeah, no worries. Well, Chris, it's good to be here with you.
Well, I'm having fun already, and man, we hadn't even gotten into it yet.
No. We've just been talking beers.
Yeah. Couple
of dudes, one of us wearing a mask, no big deal.
Right. Which I'm okay with, because I don't think, honestly, a lot of artists would, I hate to say this, but have the balls to wear a mask like that.
Well, not a lot of artists are me, and not a lot of artists are the Silver Boy.
Right, you know? Right.
So you chose wisely in having me on the show today, Chris.
That's awesome. So far, I agree with Silver Boy. All right. So
I brought you something. Can we jump into this?
Yeah.
So this is the new Silver Boy LP, which is out now on Outright Rock Records on vinyl. It's a 10-song long play, and like I said, it just came out this past Saturday, and we celebrated over at the Cannery Hall, which used to be called the High Watt.
Yes.
And we had a really, really lovely time. Chelsea King opened up the show. India Ramey played right before us, and it was just a barn burner and such a magical performance. Truly, oftentimes after gigs, a lot of us musos or lifers, you have qualms about the sound or how it felt on stage, or something went wrong or somebody hit a wrong note, whatever. But we had done a lot of good preparation for this one. And, once we got through the sound check and everything was in its place, it's kind of up to the rock and roll gods. And they were on our side Saturday night because it was truly magical. I have this beautiful choir robe that's all silver that my partner Tracy Jean sewed some beautiful black fringe on for me to kind of Nashville it up a little bit, if you will, a little honky tonk gospel thing. And we've been really leaning into this spaghetti western vibes with the promos and everything. So you're hearing a lot of Ennio Morricone, very like Good, Bad, and the Ugly style. Yeah. And so we came out to that as our theme music, and I came out in the robe, and it was a really warm reception, and it felt really good after all this prep and work. And so at that point I was pretty much flying and did the first few songs in that robe, and felt like out of body in a way. Yeah. And I'm not just putting it on. It was magic. And a lot of the songs on this record are near and dear to me and really personal, but without, it wasn't a concept record. It was definitely just a collection of songs that took form. And when I started realizing what was weaving through them all, which is kind of my story, my family's story, and our last name, and passing the torch on to my children one day. I have a daughter who's 2, the little silver girl at home, Ruby Ramona. But yeah, I wanted something to be representative of that. And I know you were asking about the artwork before, yes. Right?
Yes.
So, there's an artist named Georgie Smith who lives in one of the Channel Islands, which is one of the islands between France and Guernsey. So, the UK, and it's owned by the UK, and it's a beautiful island. I've actually played on it quite a few times with previous versions of my music and different rock and roll bands. But anyhow, Georgie Smith, phenomenal collage artist, and I had seen a lot of her work, and it always really spoke to me. And as I was trying to come up with the concept and everything for this record, I described to her this kind of cosmic Western space setting, and my wife shot the photo, and we sent it over to Georgie in England, and the rest is history. But we wanted to go, more of an artistic piece where the front could be the back and the back could be the front. If you notice, there's not really any song titles. The band name is just kind of on the side there, Silver Boy, Marker with Love. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Georgie Smith killed it. Really happy to get to work with her. And for the release party, we had a giant version of the album cover as our backdrop on a big old LED screen. So it felt like next level, when all the elements were together. It was pretty rad.
I saw that in some of your social media posts, and it was very unique and very colorful. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. It kind of gives it depth, and you can try to look past the music, and there's just so much going on when I looked at that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And I would watch that little clip over and over and over to try to catch everything that was going on. It wasn't just you standing there singing your song.
Oh, no.
Just kind of and it's not a bad thing, but just the band in the background. It's more performance.
Yeah. It's always been that way since the beginning, when I was in a little rock and roll garage in South Florida growing up. Me and my best friends with our garage punk rock bands, we would go to shows together and kind of analyze all the different shows and what was good and what was bad. And, you know, the thing that always made us feel something was when artists weren't just phoning it in. They were actually going for it and into it. So it was part of our mantra to like really just, you know, rock out and have a good time and not be a clown or a jester or anything. You know, that works for some people, but you know, you just got to move and you really got to feel it and feel the music and let the music kind of channel through you and pulsate. And then it's symbiotic with the audience, right? So you get up there and you do it. And if you're doing it right, you're connecting with people, sometimes on a visual level, like, you know, your sight line and all that. But yeah, just always going 100, you know, you can play for 5 people, you can play for 50 people, you can play for 5,000 people, and always give it the same amount of gusto every single time. And that's how I've always been. And for my career, it's just been this like slow and steady ramp up, but you know, long journey. And I wouldn't change anything about the journey. I'm here in Nashville and doing what I love. And I spent a long time in New York City before this. So there almost 14 years.
Yeah.
Playing in bands and writing songs, producing records. And that brought me over to the UK and Ireland and Scotland and Portugal and France. And so gateway to Europe, you know, for me. Haven't gotten to play Asia yet, but I did go visit Thailand and rode through the jungles of Chiang Mai on an elephant. I don't know many people that can say they've done that, but I've done that.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty much the most majestic, magical thing the Silver Boy's ever done. Truly, I felt like I was an avatar or something. It was pretty wild. Yeah. So just like, and if it wasn't for music, if it wasn't for the community and the people you meet along the way, those things wouldn't happen. I wouldn't have been able to travel to some of these places.
Well, have you found community in Nashville for your music
100%.
and your art?
100%. Yeah, I was living in Brooklyn, you know, I've been here in Nashville going on 8 years, but before that, I was in New York City and Brooklyn for about 13, 14 years. And at sometimes it was, you know, really hip and vibing and I was really feeling it, but I was always trying to get out and go other places and tour and then coming back. And it felt better to do that, return home and play your hometown. But I was always watching what was brewing here in Nashville, and I wanted to be a part of this. It seemed more my speed. Yeah, just there's a lot of great artists, great songwriters, and I felt like the community was not just feeling it. It has been a lot stronger here for me, and I've met some incredible artists, and I've gotten had closer relationships with, you know, more notable artists and other songwriters and stuff that maybe in New York and LA wouldn't have the time to, you know, lend you a hand or have a conversation more in passing, you know, but here everybody's kind of on a level playing field no matter who you are. You know, it seems that way, like a working town.
Yeah.
You know, Music City, baby.
Well, and that's one of the things that I love about Nashville is that it's Music City. It's not country music city. It's Music City. So there's other music here besides country music. There's blended styles of music. There's alt styles of music. There's people who, when I ask them, and I'm going to ask you this, when I ask them what genre music they play, people they'll just, if they haven't really thought about it, they'll just kind of say, well, kind of a blend of, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 different things. And I think that's unique that an artist can take multiple different genres and make it work for them. Just kind of put it in a blender and say, this is who I am. These different genres speak, you know, for me. But I have to blend everything together to make it my own.
All right, y'all. I just wanted to hop in here and take a quick little break from this great episode. I know it's a great conversation they're having, but I promise we'll get back to it in just 1 second. For those of y'all who don't know, my name is Harkos, and I not only edit this episode, but every episode here on Two Beers with the Band podcast. But aside from that, I have my own podcast called Music Making Sense Podcast, where it's all about music marketing, branding, and how to have success. Real success as an independent artist. And every single week I'm dropping all kinds of great tips and tricks for independent artists that you can use to help you grow a real and sustainable fan base online, because I know a lot of independent artists struggle with the online growth, getting themselves out there and starting to get that attention that's going to help them get a real fan base. Okay, and I can help you out. Every single week I drop all kinds of tips and tricks on all the platforms, streaming and especially over on YouTube. And aside from that, I also go live every single Wednesday on YouTube exclusively and review independent artists' music and give live in-person music marketing review and pointers as well too. So if you're an independent artist or you happen to know some independent artists, such as all these great artists that come by Two Beers with the Band podcast, make sure you come check out Music Making Sense Podcast, available at musicmakingsense.pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to all the streaming platforms, all the social media, and to the YouTube channel as well too. So musicmakingsense.pod.com for any and everything Music Making Sense Pod. Make sure you come on by, check it out, learn some stuff, and help yourself grow a real and sustainable fan base with all the great knowledge that I put out on a regular basis. And of course, if you have any questions, y'all know how to reach me, musicmakingsensepod.com. Anyway, I'm going to get back to this great conversation. Let y'all enjoy it. See y'all later.
Together to make it my own.
Yeah, I mean, if you're too one-sided with what you listen to, that might be the only output that you get. If you only listen to one genre, you're kind of limiting yourself, and there's a lot more room to grow, and there's a lot more music to be had. I love listening to all genres of music, but it all goes back to rock and roll for me, of course, and a bit of psychedelia and but I love bossa nova, and I like alternative, and I like Latin music, and all the crooners, all the like 50s and 60s crooner style stuff. And my parents' record collection was a big catalyst for me, so you'd find everything from Johnny Mathis to Dean Martin to, of course, the Beatles, and Dionne Warwick, and Gladys Knight and the Pips, all that. So soul music. But of course, my mom was my mother, we talked about my father at the top of the show, right? Being from Italy, but my mom is from Hazard, Kentucky.
Okay.
If you can believe it. So coal miner's daughter.
Right.
Yeah. Like full on. And, their story is quite interesting too. But, in a nutshell, she eventually from Kentucky went to Cincinnati and then followed some girlfriends to the city to go to a women's college in Nyack. And my mom and dad were both serendipitously at the same party when the Beatles' Revolver album was coming out, or it had just come out. And my mom asked my dad to dance speaking of beer, at a keg party. Would have been like 66 or something like that. And they've been together since, and thankfully they're still with us right now. And amazing. They've been great parents, and they let me explore my creativity. And, my mom never let me, even though probably certified every disorder of ADHD and every other thing, but she never let me like get up in those, the Ritalins or the Adderalls or whatever it was of the time,
Right.
Because she always thought, even though doctors were like, yeah, definitely give him all the drugs, please. She was always really good to try alternative things to deal with that and like with my behavior and whatnot growing up. But yeah, so who knows, if I had have taken those things at the time, maybe I wouldn't have turned out how I did or how I am. But good foundation growing up down there, good parents, good big sisters, and tight family. But music was always really important. Always had a piano in the house. Specifically, that piano, right, was the piano I grew up in. My sisters and I would tape the note, scotch tape on those keys and write the notes on it and whatnot. But in the photo, there's a few different Easter eggs here, but which you can look at another time. You don't have to zoom right now. But in this background here, there's a clarinet up on that piano, and that was my grandfather, Anthony Argiro's clarinet. He was a musician. So when we were trying to do this record, we're like, how can we pay homage to that? What are we going to put a clarinet on the front of the record? Didn't really look that cool to do it like that. But when we started building the set for the photo, we put that on there, and there's a picture of my grandma and I playing the piano, and you got the little tease of what was going to happen with the Silver Boy mask, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I got off on a tangent there, but yeah, I grew up down there. What were we saying? Can you keep me on track, Chris? Where was I? Where was I?
Actually,
I don't even know. I got lost.
A couple of questions.
Yeah.
You said that doctors were all about wanting to put you on medication.
Oh, of
for
course. Yeah.
various things, and your mother said no, and she let you kind of lean in on your mental health.
Oh, yeah.
And she didn't knock you or fill you up with medications. Do you think that your creativity blossomed due to kind of being given free reign to a degree?
Yeah,
to a degree.
most definitely. You know, they've always supported that. They've come out to see all the different bands that I've been playing in since I was a kid. They were, in fact, driving me and all the parents of the bands were taking turns driving us to our gigs down in Miami. We'd get big X's on our hands. We'd play these punk venues with these bigger bands, and they'd go have dinner somewhere and then scoop us up, take turns driving us home. And so we were always like taken under the wing by these like older bands in the scene. There was a really good punk rock scene in South Florida, and mom and dad were cool. And my dad took me to see punk shows when I was like in 6th and 7th grade, but he also took me to see the Beach Boys, and he took me to see Little Richard with my mom. We went and saw Ringo Starr and the All-Star Band, and all the alternative bands that would come through, we would go whenever we could. They were always really big into supporting music for me. And before that, it was all sports. I was just as nuts about sports as I am about music today, and as I was then. It's pretty wild. But yeah, it would have, I think in hindsight, it quite possibly would have stifled the creativity, to answer your question. And I'm glad she didn't, and they always, let us, pre-cell phones and all that. They were always good about documenting. So they always had cameras, and we would have a camera up on a tripod, and my sisters and I would make commercials and do little bits and routines and sing and play and dance and dress up and just get weird, and occupy our times. Of course we watched some television and movies and played outside and like all kid ride our bikes and all that. But we were always, performing in some way or another, so I think that's always stuck with me. And now that we have many computers in our pockets and many video cameras in our pockets, it's like makes it a lot easier to do those kind of things. But that's why I lean in on the creative side of things better now as an adult. I have a more of an understanding of how it all works, and I'm not afraid to take chances or do different things.
Well, I wonder, do you think that instead of doctors just automatically throwing medication at kids who are suffering from a mental disorder, maybe they should try alternative methods?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, ultimately it's the family's choice and the parents' decision, but it's a case by case situation. Right. Some kid definitely probably needs something,
no doubt.
Especially if they're going to go take a hammer to their something, they're somebody's animal or something, that maybe they should give them the drugs. But everybody's different, right? So who knows? I don't know. And everybody's going to do it differently, and everybody's going to respond. I think it's a balance of, listening to parents and doctors and making sound decisions for their family.
Yeah, I agree. I'm personally not a fan of medications and things like that. I never really have been, but I would like for children, not to be medicated unless, of course, they had to be. Sure. But, it just...
Everything in moderation, though, right? You just don't want to get them... You don't want people to be hooked on anything, and you should be able to kind of have both if you can. I don't know, as an adult speaking anyways, everything was always in moderation for me, whether that was like whatever it is, partying days and whatnot, you live and you learn. I experimented with a whole bunch of different things throughout the years, and I'm probably a better person for it, really.
Right.
Now I know limits on things, and I know not to be a dumbass. And, I've survived longer than a lot of my friends did, sadly. Florida was a crazy place to grow up. People were doing pretty hardcore drugs pretty early on. A lot of parents out working all the time, and big houses and babysitter, not even having any childcare. So kids running amok, and yeah, sadly that's the case with a lot of people don't really make it out of that mentality, or, that small town thing or big town thing. So yeah, some people didn't learn the lesson or didn't get help, or, people didn't see the signs to like get them help,
Right.
maybe got them off getting in trouble because they thought they didn't want this on the record, but who cares if they have a record if they're not here with us anymore,
Exactly.
kind of say. And so, tying it back to the album, and now I'm kind of hearing it unfold in my head right now talking to you, but there's a song on here called Older Again, and kind of deals with that a little bit too. It's kind of, ultimately it's a positive outlook on it, but we're not getting older, we're getting better. If you're kind of always chipping away and becoming the better version of yourself if you're blessed enough to carry on, and have a long life. I always did 27 club, right, with all the rock stars and all that, around that 25, 26, and it's not just me. There's many, many artists that I've talked to who've all had the same premonitions of, oh my God, I'm going to be in the 27 club. Oh my God. And, especially if they're burning it at both ends or being extra naughty with their choices of narcotics or whatnot, or drunk driving or whatever it is. But yeah, my point is, when I got to that age, that point, I was like having like weird nightmares, premonitions about crashing a car and, in South Florida, driving into the intercoastal, whatever. Anyway, long story short, I made it past 27. So every day after 27 has been a blessing, because a lot of people aren't around to tell the story, and I'm here.
Yeah. Well, speaking of music, what genre of music do you play?
I mean, if you ask me like the quick short answer, it'd be rock and roll. Okay. Lately just kind of discussing it with people and other musicians and other people soaking it up. It's kind of a cosmic glam, if you will. But it could be, when you're putting your songs up into the Spotify's and the iTunes and Apple Music, Tidal and all that, it's alternative music or indie.
Yeah.
But it's all rock and roll, baby.
Yeah.
Well,
speaking of crooners,
yeah,
I do hear a little bit of that in your music.
Sure.
And I enjoy that. I enjoy that style of music. I always have.
Yeah.
And
it's the best.
When I hear that in your music, it makes me enjoy it that much more.
Right on. I'm happy you picked up on that, Chris. That's cool. What do you say we crack open this other bottle?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
All right.
It's
funny. I see these Corona bottles, and I think the first time I went to Cancun, Mexico, with my senior class, like a lot of friends in the senior class.
Yeah.
It's funny, like literally just looking at this and just imagining seeing the sand coming down the side, and, just being in our like hotel room, just getting freaking wild.
Oh, yeah.
Being stupid 18-year-olds drinking probably 20 of these a night, drinking, smoking Mexican marijuana. That's no good.
Right.
Not the good stuff anyhow, but yeah, crazy memories. But this is different. This is NA, right?
Yes. Yes. This is Corona
NA. Okay.
It is 0.5% ABV.
Okay. So we have to drink a few of them to get anything from it, then, I suppose.
Yeah.
We're doing the glass. We got the lime now.
Yeah, I'm going to try it real quick without the lime, just kind of see what
I won't squeeze it in just yet. I'll follow your lead.
Because, man, I'm hoping Corona shows up for this one.
Can you hear that ASMR bubbles on this here microphone?
Yeah. It's beautiful. Man, that is a clear beer.
Okay.
What are you getting on it?
I mean, I'm getting a little bit of citrus, probably because of the proximity of the lime to my not my nose here, but it's not too far off from what we were just smelling. No,
it's
definitely light.
muted.
It's definitely light.
Yeah, it kind of feels like all the aromas or the aroma of the beer is muted. So hopefully it tastes better.
Yeah, well, I am gonna squeeze this lime here with my serial killer gloves here. All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. I think you should put the lime in there.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I know you wanted to go that first, but I think you should do the lime. I think it's God intended us to put limes in Coronas.
I believe
and
Dos
Dos
to be
Equis.
true.
Yeah.
I really do.
If it's one thing I know.
As far as this beer goes, it's not bad for an NA beer.
No.
It's a little more malty than I would like.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it one bit, Chris. That's
but
not
overall,
bad. Yeah, you chose well. I'm glad. Some of the ones you get when friends pick up beers for you or whatever. Hey, can you grab a couple NAs? We were talking about. I don't like them too bitter.
Yeah,
it's kind of horrible.
I could definitely pound several of these.
Sure.
There's no doubt.
Yeah. Can you throw down? Were you pretty good? Like chugging beer?
Oh, when I was a younger man, buddy.
Yeah, same.
Buddy, I could pound some beers.
Yeah.
To be as small as I am, I could pound some, and I did.
Yeah, same.
Of course, back then we didn't have craft beer per se.
You'd be destroyed if you did that.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I was in college, Corona was my thing. I would kill Coronas. Just Corona and Bud Light were my thing when I was in college.
Yeah, Bud Light, they did a good job of that marketing. They got us too. I can admit, I definitely probably had some Bud Light paraphernalia on my dorm room in Tallahassee, Florida. That's for sure. Yeah, I don't mind this one bit. Actually, it's quite good. Between the two, let me see.
Ooh, between the two, which one would you pick?
I don't know. I mean, I guess this one, I want to be out on Percy Priest Lake on a sea-doo.
Right.
With a scantily clad lady on the back of my sea-doo. I'm thinking like, what's that Kenny guy character from, you know what I'm talking about? Eastbound and Down. You seen that show?
Oh,
it's what's his name from the Righteous Gemstones, the actor. You go back and watch it, you'll see the scene I'm talking about, because I'm not describing myself. I'm describing me as Kenny Powers on a sea-doo in Percy Priest Lake. It's pretty ridiculous. Yeah, you'll have to watch it. I'll send you a link after this.
Okay.
But yeah, this makes me want to be outside in the sunshine on a boat.
Oh, no doubt. That lime just, man, that lime really set it off. Of course, it's going to give it a citrus note, but man, I think Corona's
the winner.
Their beer, knowing that you're going to put a lime in it, so they tweak it just enough to say when they put the lime in here, bam, it's going to be what I want and what they want. So nice work, Corona. Nice work on the
Saludos.
0.5% NA beer. Man, I'm pretty happy with both these beers.
You ever had that? Like honey mead, the meadery, like what's the beer that has that like honey mead? You know what I'm talking about?
I've actually had quite a few of their meads. They do a really good job down there. Mead is a little sweet for me. So I have to be in the mood for it, but especially in the winter time or even in the summer, fall, when it's rainy and just kind of miserable, mead kind of brings a little light, a little sunshine.
Do you like all beers, or are you like into like the darker ones too?
I
know
can
you
drink-
mentioned not liking the Guinness Zero.
Well,
but
the reason I didn't like the Guinness Zero was it had a metal flavor to it on the back.
a little
It had-
metallic. Kinda
Yeah,
thing,
and I tried to say, okay, maybe this is just going to be a super dark coffee, or maybe just a super dark chocolate. And I approached that flavor,
And that's
with
not
that
what
in
happened
mind,
when it
and
hit
I
your palate.
just
Yeah.
I couldn't make myself believe that. And it was a 4-pack, so I tried. The next day, I approached it again, and I said, you know what? Gonna start with a clean slate, give it a chance. About halfway through, I was like, I just can't get into this.
Yeah.
So, do I like all beer? I haven't run across a style yet that I just would never go back to. Now, there are certain beers, obviously, I'm not a fan of, but it doesn't mean that style
Sure.
is not good. So,
Yeah.
I'll drink Pilsners, I'll drink stouts, barrel aged, West Coast IPAs, East
Yeah.
Coast IPAs, Tennessee IPAs. I mean, there's so many different
IPAs,
styles.
right?
Yeah. And
I like the juicy ones. I do really have a soft spot for those West Coast style, citrus forward, juicy IPAs. But like I said, I really like that Bearded Iris one. And also, what's the, oh man, I'm blanking again. I haven't been drinking yet either. Like really. What's the, it's called, it's not silver. That's me. It is the Teal IPA from Southern Grist. Have you had that before? That's
Yep.
what I was going for. It's a silver can with the teal logo.
Yeah.
The teal, that's really good, refreshing, citrusy IPA.
The problem with Southern Grist is their beers are too heavy. There's way too much going on in that can. I've tried just about everything I can get my hands on from them over the years. And I had to give it up because I enjoyed the beer. They do a good job. The flavors are there. The aroma is there. It's just, I can only drink one.
Yeah,
because there's just so.
I get it. Yes, quite a few of them are like pretty daring and pretty out there, like really bold and like wild. Like this one's like Jolly Rancher and Warheads combined.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
super like niche kind of thing. But there's been a few that have kind of like snuck through and been like, all right, okay. I see you, Southern Grist.
Yeah,
I see you.
I see what you're doing here.
I see what you're doing. I don't need my beer to taste like a sour candy Warhead or something,
Yeah.
But quite a few of them have actually been like, okay. So, if I am having one of those days where, like I said, I haven't been drinking for well over a year and a half now, but I see them coming in. I bartend too.
Yeah.
I have for a while. And I see those come, I'm stocking the fridge or whatever. I'm like, okay.
Right.
And now I like kind of get off a little bit when other people have it because I'm not having it, but I crack it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. Enjoy that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
So how does working behind a bar, has that influenced your music in any way?
Oh, totally. You meet so many different people. You're able to, if you're an independent artist and you're doing your own thing and you don't have much of a team, of course you got your social medias and all that throughout the years. That's been the thing that really helps independent bands reach audiences, but having a direct line to the people, everybody needs you when you're the bartender, right? So they want to be your best friend and they come through but I'm pretty good after doing it a long time, being able to kind of sift through the jokers and the thieves and whatnot and kind of know who I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind seeing you again. Or I'm just going to be nice to this person versus like, oh, this person is actually really cool. This person's actually got something going on, and like, yeah, you go through some niceties and things here and there interacting, but ultimately I'm into relationships. I like people a lot. I do like humanity. I have hope for most of us, and so how has it influenced my music? Okay. For example, here in Nashville, I had moved here from New York and I didn't have the full new band built yet for the Market with Love project. And I was working at this place downtown, a restaurant, and an older couple was at the bar, and really cool older couple, and they were really sweet. And I was talking to them about music and talking about the Flying Burrito Brothers and talking about Sneaky Pete, how he was my favorite pedal steel player. And then the gentleman, John was his name, gets up to go to the men's room. And so I'm rapping with his wife a little bit, and she's like, he's actually like really good, and you should definitely like talk to him more about pedal steel and whatnot. Because at the time I didn't have a pedal steel player here in Nashville. I'm sure I know there's plenty of them, but New York, they were hard to come by. And I had been blessed to have a guy named Blaine O'Brien playing with me for a while. And that's a whole nother story, but he was the first version of the Market with Love project. And when I moved to Nashville, I didn't have that young, cool pedal steel player. So now I'm talking to this guy's wife, and she's like, yeah, you should definitely speak to him. So when he came back, I started pressing on a little bit more questions about music. And turns out this guy, he played with Tanya Tucker. He played with Billy Dean. He was an OG member of the Oak Ridge Boys. It's like, you never know who you're going to meet in Nashville.
Oh,
so
right.
as a bartender, you meet a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And fast forward, I had started making this Silver Boy record in New York City, but hadn't finished it quite yet. So I moved here and was trying to fill in the blanks, finish writing some lyrics. And I said to this guy, John, hey man, his name's John L. Rich. And next thing you know, he's at my at my house and in Donaldson. And we're jamming a little bit, and we connected really well. So he liked the songs I was writing. And when my engineer flew in to continue tracking at my home studio, we had John over, and it was the most Nashville thing you could imagine. It was him, and he had to come over. I think it was his mother-in-law at the time had to come with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And so we're like in my then wife at the time, now my ex-wife she was out of town. So of course flew in the engineer. We took the master bedroom over to make a studio.
Right.
And so you got me in there, like kind of producing and overseeing everything. You got John over there at the pedal steel. And then you got basically this sweet old little granny, silver hair, sitting there with the little headphones on. We were letting her listen to the sessions, and we'd check in on her every now and again, but she was loving just vibing, tapping her toe. And yeah, this guy, John, just played all over the record, and he played on top of some of the stuff that Blaine had started. So there was like dueling pedal steels going on in there and they had never even met before. And that happened from working in a bar, Yeah. So like I got direct, DNA of a really great player on this record just from, being in the right place at the right time. And I think that's what a lot of it really comes down to, whether it's a bar or working retail or, going to see another show and somebody being like, oh, you're cool, let's hang out sometime, that kind of thing. But with the bar, you have a little bit more of a platform and a forum to like have a conversation, and chances are you might see him again, or they know where to find you.
Yeah.
So if you weren't a dickhead or, or whatever, they might like give you the time of day and say, hey, I'll play on your record.
Well, do you think a lot of indie artists should try to work in their music or their art into a conversation?
Of course. You're going to be your biggest champion, so if you have an opportunity to tell somebody about your music without coming off like you're trying too hard, there's a right time and a right place.
Yeah.
Maybe for me, even to this day, I'll be serving somebody all night or whatever, and then they'll come get their check. And maybe I'll say, hey, I'm playing this Saturday down at the Cannery Hall. It's an album release show. If you're around, come on out. Something like that. Or, I think you might, just based on our conversation, I think you might dig the kind of music me and my band are doing. So again, you don't want to be too pushy. And, I'm not like stuffing flyers in everybody's checks every single time, though I've probably done that in the past too.
Right.
But, you definitely have to take advantage, because nobody's going to be a bigger champion for your art or your music or your band as yourself, and not all of us have the benefits of having a manager or an agent or a publicist that are going around telling everybody about you, which is what they're doing, right? That's what the labels are doing. They're telling everybody about you, and they got a lot of bucks behind it.
Well, yeah, they're the promotion. They're the business end of music business. Yeah. And a lot of artists don't like the business part of music business. They don't like the promotion part of music business. And I think a lot of artists who are extremely talented think that their music is going to speak for itself. And
yeah, good luck with that, guys.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you know what I mean? Of course, there's going to be an exception to that rule. There's going to be somebody that, makes a banger of a track and just drops it on Spotify or SoundCloud or whatever, and it breaks the internet because they're just right place and right time. There's people that can break through that way, but the chances are really, really slim. So I don't know, seize some opportunities every now and again, I think.
Well, the odds of that happening are so slim, but it seems like a lot of artists, it's kind of hopium. They see a little traction in their latest song or their latest short or something like that, and they think, oh, this is going to be the one, this is going to be the one, and they put all this effort into the song, into recording the song, into, just the video, the shorts, whatever, but they don't promote the music.
All right, y'all. What's up? Harkos here again. No, I'm not here to tell you about my podcast again. I'm here to let you know that this is the end of part 1 of this great interview right here with Silver Boy. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Part 2 gets even better, and if you want to watch part 2, it will come out in 2 days after this episode has aired. So depending on when you're watching this, it may or may not be up. But either way, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification buzzer right here on Two Beers in the Band podcast, so that you always get notified when a new episode or a part 2 of an episode right here on Two Beers in the Band podcast drops. Okay, so if you enjoyed this, make sure you leave some comments down below. Join the conversation as well, too. And, of course, make sure you like, share, follow, and don't forget to subscribe to Two Beers in the Band podcast. And without further ado, I'll see you on the next episode, part 2, right here with Silver Boy on Two Beers in the Band podcast.
High as a kite now, stuck in a tree. Don't take it for granted. Life isn't make-believe.